test your might.
There is, in fact, a training montage that happens.
But the throwback to test your might, that was fun.
The soundtrack during the training montage is awesome.
With only a limited amount of time until the Mortal Kombat tournament actually begins, Cole and Kano begin to train with Kang and Kung Lao to unlock their arcana. Sonya cannot because she is not marked yet. She is not a Earthrealm champion, but she's encouraging Jax, trying to get him into the fight despite his condition.
Cole trains with Kung Lao and once again gets his ass handed to him.
At one point, Liu Kang actually name drops Bo Ray Cho, who was from Deadly Alliance. He was the drunken master who helped train Earthrealm's warriors like Liu Kang.
Man, Liu is built.
Damn, speaking of actors and actresses being ripped, did they CG muscles on top of Liu Kang's muscles? Holy that guy does not miss ab day.
When they're training is the first time that Kano is like completely just shitty at fighting.
This bit where Liu keeps spamming the leg sweep on Kano was great.
There's also a fun little callback to the leg sweep spam, which, man, that was so annoying when people would do that in the game.
Where Kung Lao just like knocks him over several times in a row.
I love when they're testing out Kano and Liu Kang does that like cheap-ass arcade shit where you just keep sweeping the guy's leg and they're like, you gotta learn how to block, bro.
Liu Kang does that 3 or 4 times to Kano and makes me chuckle while also hating certain people from my childhood. You know who you are.
Turns out, apparently, that's a reference to the video games. I guess you could just, like, trip someone, and the game sort of just let you keep doing that on repeat.
Sonya goes to check on Jax, who recently got some simple metal arms installed, while the rest of them go train.
I also didn't really like Jax's chicken arms.
We also find out that Jax was not killed by Sub-Zero, that he was actually rescued by Raiden and Liu Kang.
And also Jax finally gets his metal arms, and they look kinda bad.
Jax's poor crappy metal arms.
They look kinda crappy, like the CG wasn't very good. They didn't really serve much of a purpose. He couldn't really do much with them.
And he has been fitted with a set of mechanical arms, even though they look like little baby mechanical arms.
And he's tiny little baby arms.
And more importantly, where did they get those? You know, how the hell did they know how to do that?
Like, where did you get these things, right? In Metal Arm Walmart?
And where? Like, what? Why? There's so many questions about that, man. Like, I don't know. You could have saved that for another day, but
maybe they'll grow up at some point.
And I get they needed to train to unlock their arcana, which is a clever way to involve their powers.
They learn that they can all unlock their video game special moves, basically, by achieving their own arcana.
Finally, the arcana system seems kind of dumb overall.
So here's where they're setting up the whole plot for you and how they, learn to use their arcanas or their specials and, just get them into fighting shape.
This is something they created for the movie to explain why everyone has a special superpower, even though they're normal humans from Earth. And I kind of like it. I sort of hope they retcon this into the games. It's kind of like mutants in the X-Men comics. A catalyst has to trigger their powers, but they can only unlock their powers if they're one of the chosen ones.
And we also don't know where these marks necessarily come from. Cole has had it as long as he can remember, so I'm guessing that he was born with it. Where did all these other marks come from? Do they manifest once you become powerful enough and skilled enough that you could be a champion? Or is it more along the lineage, kind of like with Cole Young? I hope they do expand on this, since it's a different take and is going to be a key piece to assembling the Earthrealm champions for Mortal Kombat.
If you had a superpower, wouldn't you just melt someone the minute you thought they were bad? Hey, you look evil. Bam! Face laser. Hand fireball. Spinny pat pet.
Basically, if you're a good enough fighter, the universe just gives you magic. Alright.
The birthmark symbol thing, like I said, is kind of stupid, but what was really stupid was the arcana, where you have to like find some way to unlock your inner strength, which is like a superpower. I mean, come on, man.
So another kind of neat thing about like their decision to do this birthmark, Liu Kang killed a child trafficking guy, and that's how he was able to get his tattoo and inevitably earn his powers. Again, I feel like that is a really good decision because the people who get that mark are not always going to be like just people. They're not always going to be holy people. Some of them can be complete pieces of shit, and I like that. It's not the whole like, oh, you heroes were chosen to fight in this. No. No, it's heroes and villains and fit people and anyone.
I also do question that anyone who kills the previous person with the tattoo birthmark.
Now, this is actually a potential plot hole. Does the person have to die in battle? Say a champion goes out to a restaurant and chokes on some chicken and dies. Would the cook who prepared the meal get the mark? Or would it be the waiter or waitress? I mean, who gets to claim victory then over this guy or girl who choked on a chicken or piece of chicken or whatever the accidental death would be?
Like, I think someone on Reddit or there was a video postulated that, what if some 80-year-old grandma ran over Liu Kang or something? Does a geriatric lady get the power of a walker that turns into a knife or something?
It could be your grandmother.
And now that's how we decided the fate of the Earth. Grandma.
Anyone.
At least they need to somehow, activate or unlock their arcana.
Okay, I get that you either have to have an explanation for why dudes can throw fire from their hands or freeze stuff and teleport and all this. I mean, I guess if they feel like you have to have it, okay, fine. But either just leave it out altogether or come up with something better than this.
I mean, I get it. Superpowers, great responsibility. But yeah, once you get it, it doesn't even require focus, just doing.
I didn't like this at all.
Kano is the first to unlock his, and it's his laser eye move.
Kano is eventually able to awaken his arcana at a dinner table after an argument with Kung Lao and Liu Kang, back and forth, just continuously insulting Kano, and he gets so angry that he eventually shoots a laser out of his right eye.
Again, every special move from the games is here.
I really like where they egg Kano into earning his ability.
Man, Kano is such a dick in this.
It's like there's kind of a point where clearly everyone is just, already pissed off with Kano because he's an asshole. And again, they push this. They do a great job of pushing that Kano is an asshole. But then you can tell that something goes off in Liu Kang and Kung Lao's minds, where it's like they know something is about to happen, so they just push it harder and harder and harder, and then the laser beam shoots out.
Kano threatens to shove his sombrero up his and Liu Kang calls Kano an aggressive bunny. Kano totally loses his shit, and he gets a laser eye.
And you can kind of tell that Liu Kang in particular feels rewarded by this decision.
And he's like, laser beams better than fireballs, you pussy, to Liu Kang, and he's just the best.
He clearly really wanted that egg roll.
Liu has Kano beat up on Cole in an attempt to unlock his arcana. Raiden explains that Cole's a descendant of one of the greatest ninjas to ever walk the earth, Hanzo Hasashi, who was murdered by Sub-Zero and descended to the deepest reaches of the Netherrealm.
Unfortunately, Cole is unable to awaken his arcana despite his persistence.
Raiden's disappointed in Cole not getting his powers, so he sends him back to his family.
Raiden allows Cole to leave the temple and return to his family, and also reveals his heritage, that he is a descendant of Hanzo Hasashi and what happened after Raiden rescued Hanzo's daughter, the only survivor of the massacre. He also hands Cole a kunai, the weapon that Scorpion had used in the original battle with the Lin Kuei back in the 17th century.
We cut back to Shang Tsung's throne in Outworld, where Melina brings along Cabal and General Reiko.
Man, I'm sorry, I'm super into this movie so far, but nothing in Outworld looks good.
I love the costume design in this, especially Sub-Zero's armor. It's the exact opposite of the crappy ones we got in Annihilation.
These costumes are not designed to be shown in the daylight.
They really stepped up their game in terms of the look of the characters. Intricate design in Sub-Zero's mask is just freaking cool.
We get another scene with the villains just monologuing in Outworld, and this is just a straight up Power Rangers scene.
I know that this is basically like a almost pixel for pixel recreation of Thanos' throne room, but Thanos had a floating chair, and there's cosmos behind him with stars and planets and things.
I really like this set design here. Kind of reminds me of the Kryptonian tech from Man of Steel.
This is just kind of like a sort of Game of Thrones throne with Utah behind it with a purple filter over it. I do not like this design for Outworld.
I like that Shang Tsung was actively working to sabotage Earthrealm before the tournament. It makes sense that he would be doing this, making winning the tournament even more difficult.
I mean, maybe they're just trying to say Outworld sucks, and that's why they need to invade Earth, which, okay, but let's have somebody call that out, maybe.
And perhaps that's the thread they should have pulled on more. Bring in more fighters, Shang Tsung and his goons wipe out a few, then leave the fate of Earthrealm to a handful of fighters that now must survive Mortal Kombat. And those survivors could be the ones he underestimated. I could see Johnny Cage fitting that bill easily. Plus, since the tournament isn't active, perhaps the cheating he was doing couldn't necessarily be labeled that way. Mortal Kombat wasn't happening, so what rules was Shang actually breaking? They brought these rules up, but like many other things, they never really followed through.
Shang Tsung is in Outworld gathering Sub-Zero, fellow warriors Melina, Reiko, Nitara, Goro.
Okay, we are an hour into this movie, and now we are getting more new characters. I don't like this.
The villains are fine, but again, kind of washed out.
We don't need new characters an hour into this movie. We already have enough characters in this movie. We've got Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Kano, Sonya. We've got Cole. We've got Cole's family, Raiden. We've got a dozen characters already. We don't need to have 3 or 4 new guys show up.
Raiko, Nitara, Melina are all fine, but nothing special.
We haven't developed the chick with the size more in depth than that she has size and is a bad guy. I don't know anything about her, let alone these other 3 new guys that are showing up.
They are immediately recognizable and immediately forgettable.
We see Shang Tsung's daughter, who is a gargoyle lady. I guess she was in the games, but who cares? Who knows?
Oh, and Nitara appears. She was a vampire introduced in Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance.
She was in one of the middle ones that sucked.
I really liked her inclusion here, even if she doesn't really get to say any lines and kind of gets killed off pretty quickly.
There's General Reiku, again, I don't know who this guy is, from some Mortal Kombat game.
He's basically a low-rent Shao Kahn. He even has his hammer.
And Kano's former ally, Cabal.
But then we have Cabal.
I know a lot of people were not impressed with the voice work for Cabal.
But I don't know, we've got this post-apocalyptic Deadpool who looks and sounds ridiculous. Why does he talk like a cartoon Al Capone? I don't know.
Wow, his accent in this movie is certainly a choice.
It didn't bother me that much. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it.
I did like Cable. He was a fun addition, but wasted. Also, I forgot that he was fast. I haven't played the games in forever. But at least he had his hook swords.
Cabal, of course, was introduced in Mortal Kombat 3, making his first on-screen debut alongside Reiko, who I actually had to look up. Turns out he was one of the many throwaway characters introduced in Mortal Kombat 4.
And then we get the Shadow of Goro, which Goro's fine because we kind of know who Goro is, and it's okay introducing a new threat an hour into the movie.
Then Goro shows up, and it's oh snap, it's on now.
This is the best Goro introduction in any of the movies that we've watched thus far, and you don't even see him.
And I like that the first time we see him, it's just a shadow.
It is great. That looming shadow is such a... This movie is artistic. Why is a Mortal Kombat movie so artistic?
Cabal shows up to Kano, they exchange some insults, before he offers him some money to betray his planet.
Cabal is transported to Raiden's temple where he is able to convince Kano to defect and sabotage the shield, allowing the Outworlders to enter and attack the Earthrealm champions.
Shang Tsung breaks into Raiden's temple because Kano betrays everyone.
And he sells out immediately.
Because that's what Kano does.
Because of course he does. That's Kano.
Kano betrays the heroes, which I get canon-wise, but I don't understand in the context of this movie.
As much as we all liked Kano, Cable turning him back because of money makes 0 sense for the character. He just got a laser eye.
I think that at this point, the first hour of this movie is fantastic, and it's starting to come unglued here. I think it's because they're relying too much on the games here and the audience's understanding of what happens in the games, right? Kano is a bad guy in the games, which makes sense, but in this movie, he's been more of a Han Solo character.
Of course, he's on the side of the angels at first, so to speak, in that he's on Earthrealm's side, sort of.
He's been more of I don't want to go on this adventure, but I'm going on this adventure, and I'm here, and I'm going to save Earthrealm.
At first, I was a little concerned that they were going to make him the surprise hero by the end.
And he's been more or less in on this, and I don't get that hey, you can make money is a motivation for him to betray the Shaolin Temple, because we haven't really seen him sacrifice anything. We haven't really seen this aspect of him being hey, I'd rather just make money than do anything else.
Also, why send Cable? Kano tried to kill him earlier. Why use him as your emissary?
Kano lasers Raiden's staff, and the force field comes crashing down.
and it's just like some character we met 5 minutes ago shows up and has a 12-second conversation with him, and he suddenly turns evil. I don't like this. I don't think it was earned. It seems really forced and sudden and poorly executed. I like it story-wise, but I don't like the way that it's done in this movie.
Of course, he's the one that pulls the double cross and teams up with Shang Tsung's team. But even then, he's still probably the most likable character in the whole movie.
Plus, you kind of need Kano on the team here because he's likable and fun and funny, and everyone else is super serious and dorky and shit. So like you need a comic relief hero. We don't have Johnny Cage, so we have Kano, and he's been working in this role.
They nailed him. I mean, he's awesome.
I would like to have seen him turn later in the movie and in a more believable manner.
But no, he has no character arc. He's just a scumbag, and I appreciate that.
But he was great. And honestly, so was Cabal. Cabal was significantly more likable than I thought he was going to be.
Almost immediately, Shang Tsung and his minions appear in a creepy black mist.
But shortly after this, we get all the big fights of the movie, almost like back to back to back to back.
Sonya battles Melina, Jax battles Reiko with his little baby arms, Kung Lao is battling Natara, and Liu Kang is fighting Cabal.
I thought the fact that he really was kicking Liu Kang's ass was pretty cool.
Kung Lao throws his hat at Shang Tsung. He just dodges it and sicks Natara after him. Get him, my pretty. Did anyone else think of the Wicked Witch here? No? Just me? Okay.
And then we have the matchups are Cole versus my boy Goro, who looks amazing in this movie.
Goro looks a bit Warcraft for me. It's not great.
Oh shit, they sent Goro to fight the one dude who hasn't unlocked his powers? That's a bad day.
Kung Lao versus flying gargoyle woman.
During the fight, Kung Lao is able to battle and kill Natara.
I don't know, the fight barely lasts any amount of time at all.
The coolest moment was the flawless victory when the vampire girl got cut in half by the buzzsaw hat.
The best fatality in the entire movie was Kung Lao's destruction of Nitera.
Whoa. Kung Lao has some deep, unresolved emotional issues. Holy f***.
He does this Zen Buddhist thing when he can't see the vampire lady, and she dive bomb attacks him, and then he reverses the grab, rides her like a skateboard across the sandpit, throws his sentient hat into the ground, turns it into a table saw, cutting her in half.
And that fatality, straight out of the game. That was bloody violent.
He just cuts her in half with his hat. He does the hat fatality.
Made absolutely zero sense, but was the most Mortal Kombat thing in the entire film.
It's so good. It's just as gross as in the game.
Flawless victory.
And he actually knows the meaning of flawless victory. Well done, Kung Lao. Well done.
I like Chick with the Sizes burn that you're not good enough for me to kill you, but she gets sucked into that black hole using the almost exact same effect that Scorpion uses in MK Annihilation, and I just wanted her to yell, "Suckers!"
Meanwhile, Cole and his family are ambushed by Goro.
While this is all going on, Cole Young is back with his family where he is attacked by Goro.
And of course, we have to have a special mention for Goro, as we have discussed Goro from the other movies at length.
I feel like they did a pretty decent job with Goro here.
Looks good.
I think it actually kind of looks pretty bad.
I will have to admit, though, when I first saw Goro, I was like, wait, that looks like the Hulk. So maybe we just need a new, I don't know, green bad guy CGI template. I don't know.
I was really pleased with Goro.
But he looked good. It went well. Definitely a far cry from the puppet counterpart that we had in the earlier films.
I do kind of miss the Goro puppet, but this one definitely looks intimidating.
I do like Goro's fighting style. What they do with the forearms, they've come up with basically this cool little it's his own fighting style, and I really like it. He's doing interesting things with the forearms working together in sync. He's not just spinning them like General Grievous did. So I don't love the CG look of him, but I do think that what they're doing with him is very cool.
I feel like they were very smart in using him instead of trying to cram him as the main villain of the movie and use him a lot and spent tons of budget on just trying to get him on screen. Give him one long sequence and just let it loose. It's awesome. I would have preferred him to have fought Kung Lao or Liu Kang. Personally, I think that would have enjoyed that more. But if you're going to try to put a character's family in jeopardy and it's the unstoppable force you're trying to stop, Sub-Zero would have been great there. But Goro? Like, holy crap, I didn't expect that.
Cole's powers finally kick in when Goro threatens his family.
I think we all knew Cole would have to lose something he loves to gain his abilities, but I do kind of wish he'd actually lost someone.
Cole is practically powerless to stop Goro and is only able to unlock his arcana when his wife and daughter are threatened and about to be killed.
That sort of falls flat, where it's like, it's the possibility of losing them, and for a movie that has killed so many people so far, if someone had just died, like, I feel like that would be a good triggering moment.
Maybe Cole's family should call the cops and let them know that a giant monster orc is beating the shit out of their dad.
And his arcana is literal plot armor.
Also, Cole's arcana is literally just plot armor.
Cole unlocks his arcana, which is complete bullshit. It's just armor that makes him invincible.
He sucked and kept getting his ass kicked in the octagon, so his power is to be able to take a punch.
He's also kind of like got this like Colossus thing going on with this like shell armor that like manifests around him.
I did think his armor was really stupid. I'm not sure how that's like his superpower, like he grows armor.
I guess he's kind of like Invincible or Rocky in that he can just take a beating, but eventually manages to come out on top because he doesn't give up.
And for some reason, tonfas.
And sword arms.
It's ridiculous.
He does get a set of tonfas, I guess, to go with it.
And like batons with knives on them. I'm sure there's a word for that weapon. Forgive me, I can't remember what it is, but that was, I don't know, silly, strange. It felt out of place.
But his armor absorbs kinetic energy, and then he's able to dish it back out tenfold.
And I kind of like this power. He can basically absorb all this kinetic energy, which he could then use against his enemies.
Very similar to Black Panther's armor in the MCU.
I don't understand why Cole harnessing his chi gives him gold armor and razor tonfas. Hanzo wasn't wearing any armor when we saw him. He fought with the scorpion harpoon. So I don't get this, right? I was kind of, because he glows when he gets hit, I was really expecting him to get the fire powers that Scorpion has, or the hell powers, or channel Hanzo in some capacity.
Wait, no, he's an MMA fighter. Where did he pick up, like, obscure weapons training? He's not a cop.
Okay, so Cole's outfit. After I finished watching this, I really began to appreciate that outfit, because when you first see it, it's like, oh cool, it's the Black Panther, whatever.
Don't like the look of this armor. I think it looks rubbery and not good and really kind of lame.
But then it dawned on me, and we're gonna pull this pen right back out. The first line that Cole's manager says about him is that he is the human punching bag. So by the end of this movie, Cole's special ability is to be a human punching bag. And I think if you look at this from like a psychological sense, it does show that Cole honestly has not grown much in this. He has like barely improved as a fighter. So much so that his arcana, his special ability, is to get the shit beat out of him. But at least this time he can dish it back.
Goro dies like 2/3 into the film. I yelled at my wife that we haven't gotten to the tournament yet. How does that work? I was like, oh my god. And then I realized that they're not going to do the tournament in this movie.
It was unfortunate that, Cole Young was the one that killed him. To me, at least. Some people might have really liked it. I'll be honest, in the moment, I was like, what? So I wasn't ever, like, rolling my eyes at this character, other than when he maybe grew the armor. That was pretty stupid. But their fight's pretty cool. Seeing Goro with just, like, grabbing this dude with one hand and just beating the crap out of him with the other three it was pretty awesome, I'm not going to lie.
Once again, Goro is done dirty.
He beats the shit out of my boy Goro.
Even though the fight is short after that point, once Cole's plot armor is unlocked, it's a pretty gruesome fatality, and he just takes Goro out.
Speaking of, Prince Goro was the previous champion, and he dies to a bad MMA fighter?
Goro deserved better. This is the only fight that slightly disappoints me in this movie.
I really wish that Goro either lasted longer or that they had sent another fighter. I kind of feel like, I don't have a very large attachment to the Mortal Kombat franchise, but I do sort of wish they would treat Goro better because he's always talked up and then just immediately shafted. At least it wasn't as bad as like the crotch punch off a cliff. This is better.
Raiden then transports Cole back to his temple. He intervenes to stop Shang Tsung and is in the process of teleporting all the Earth champions away. Unfortunately, before he can bring all of them to the Void, it's a safe space between the realms. Kung Lao sacrifices himself and has his soul sucked by Shang Tsung.
Kung Lao saves Cole, and Shang Tsung sucks his soul.
Kung Lao briefly fights Shang Tsung, but gets the soul sucked out of him, and that's not a euphemism.
Also, for some reason, Shang Tsung can literally just steal someone's soul for any reason. Doesn't even have to defeat them. Why does he just do that all the time? Just grab the guy and steal soul. Grab the guy, steal soul.
While tragic, this does add stakes and definitely sets up Liu's character arc for the next movie.
Jesus Christ, bad guys, confirm your kills. Just because you drop some things on these heroes doesn't mean that they're dead. Take their pulse. It's not that hard. Put another round or two in them while they're laying on the ground before they recover. Jesus Christ.
While needing to save Sonya, Jax is able to unlock his Arcana.
We cut back to Jax, who's trying to save Sonya from a boulder that collapsed on her. When his Arcana kicks in,
which grants him incredible strength, and his metallic arms increase in size and what you would expect from the video games.
Jax gets an upgrade.
Jax unlocks his Arcana, which is just to make better arms out of the shitty arms he had.
It's like in The Grinch, except his heart didn't grow 3 times that day. It was little baby arms grew.
They never really explain it, but it's a pretty awesome moment. I'm assuming that Jax's powers have something to do with tech?
Okay, can we talk about the chi or arcana or whatever the word is that they keep saying that I don't understand? I understand you harness your inner powers and you can conjure lightning, ice, fire. Even the eye lasers, okay, that seems a little forced because I think it's robotic in the games. But, you know, I understand we've seen enough magic and magical things, D&D and Harry Potter and stuff, to assume that we can channel elemental powers and shoot them out through our bodies. That's not a huge sci-fi leap, and it's understandable that, like, okay, when you harness your chi, you can do this.
But this is made uninteresting due to the way it's handled. Kano has an eye power. Why? Jax's metal arms become bigger. Why? Sonya gets rings. Why?
But I do not understand how harnessing your inner chi creates metal. Why the gold scorpion outfit with the razor tonfas? Why does it make Jax's arms grow bigger? I don't like it. Why would harnessing your inner power give you upgraded mechanical arms? Mechanical arms and gold armor aren't a power that comes from within you. It's physical metal. It's an object. So I don't really like that harnessing your chi makes your metallic robo arms grow. Like, Jax is a Special Forces officer. Isn't that where he got his arms? I don't know.
It seems trivial to nitpick a power set, but the writers never really gave me a reason not to ask.
Am I overthinking this?
Sonya, Jax, Liu Kang, Cole, and Raiden all transport to the Void.
Raiden and the remaining warriors have a pep talk in the Void,
where apparently this is the safest place to be, which begs the question, if there was a potential for attack, even though Raiden put the shield up, why did they not transport to the Void to avoid all of it and remain safe? I know, plot. It's not strong, but it does have one.
The movie ends in Troy's favorite way, with the heist film setup that they discussed during the heist, as they're doing it, yeah.
Cole comes up with a plan to force Outworld's champions into single combat with each of the Earthrealm's champions before they all team up and neutralize Sub-Zero together.
where they decide to use Outworld's tactics against them, attacking them before the tournament starts. This time, they get to choose their fighters and their arenas.
Raiden is able to transport anyone, anywhere, at any time. What? No giant metal American Gladiator balls that people are forced to hug and sniff each other in? This doesn't seem like Mortal Kombat. Liu Kang is sent to fight Cabal, Jax will be fighting Reiko in the pit, and Sonya goes to fight Kano back at her hideout.
Raiden gives Cole's Scorpion Spear. Jax vs. Reiko, round 2, fight.
Let me tell you, Jax handily getting a revenge is the most rewarding thing.
Favorite fighters? I liked the guy with the hammer.
So Jax beats up the goofy hammer idiot who has no lines of dialogue and no fighting ability.
The guy with the hammer had a lot of glee when he was fighting.
Jax is able to kill Reiko in the pit.
I love that they fight on the pit stage from the games.
And then they're on a ledge, but they don't actually knock him onto some spikes, which I was really expecting would happen.
It's a little disappointing that Jax didn't just uppercut Rico into the spikes, but his fatality move is pretty awesome. I'm guessing we'll see that stage again next time around.
It was fun to watch him be way pumped up when he was winning, and then even he was still kind of pumped up when he was losing.
And right before he kills him, Reiko is actually doing that little wobble at the end before you do a fatality, and then Jax just claps his hands together.
Jax never gets a good revenge. Like, they make you feel bad for him, and then just like nothing ever happens. This Jack gets a revenge.
Then he fights General What's-His-Name and pops his head like a zit. It's beautiful.
I do like the crushing head, though. I'm always down for a good head crushing.
And makes Reiko's head explode.
And that was cool.
Fatality.
Sonya vs. Kano.
Sonya and Kano fight back on Earth.
I also really dug the fight between Kano and Sonya. I know I keep going back to him, but their final fight, and they're having it out.
I really like the Kano-Sonya fight at the end.
The Sonya-Kano fight might be one of my favorites in the movie.
I love that she's basically lived in Gary, Indiana her whole life in this shitty trailer, but she's got it rigged so that it's got all these trap doors and floors.
At one point, she smashes him in the face with something that blocks his laser eye.
I like the fighting inside. I like when they're fighting in the bathroom. I like the way it ends.
And this is a very Born Identity style fight scene.
It's pretty gritty.
Very, very gritty and down to earth, and honestly, compared to the other fights going on, it's a little boring.
The Kano-Sonya fight is great. I love her like slicing his Achilles from underneath, and he's trying to eye laser her.
And he gets her in a chokehold, and he keeps running his mouth, as Kano does.
At the end, Sonya stabs Kano in the eye.
That she just grabs this lawn gnome and stabs him right through the eye with it, which was a new way to discover him losing his eye.
Even though he kind of dies, where Sonya, in like the ultimate fit of irony, stabs him through the eye with the garden gnome that he had spit on earlier. It's pretty just nasty, just really nasty. It was awesome.
Right?
She ends the fight by killing him with a garden gnome.
Which, I mean, he'll probably be fine in the next movie. He'll just have his half-robot face.
So I'm hoping that we get Kano with like the cyborg face in part 2. And I'm hoping there's a part 2, and it probably will be at this point.
But man, this ending is really jumbled and convoluted, right? Her stabbing Kano in the eye should feel climactic, but it just feels like, oh, we gotta check another fatality off. Everybody's gotta get their fatalities. Everybody's squared. It's like the end of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, right? Everybody's squared off against the guy that they want to fight for arbitrary reasons, and now they gotta fight, and now they're all killing each other. And it really takes all of the weight out of this Sonya Kano fight.
But I think what made that whole thing even more fun is if you were paying attention to it earlier in the film when Kano and Sonya, like they're talking and she's trying to get him to come, fight with them, talking about how he's just like this sexy dude, and he talks about, I don't even remember the line of dialogue, but he ends up like hacking up this massive amount of phlegm and spitting it, and it lands on the same gnome that she ends up taking him out with towards the end and taking his mark. So I thought that all came together rather nicely.
But then Sonya gets her own dragon birthmark.
I kind of think there's this sort of interesting combination in that, like, Kano had lasers, and when Sonya kills him, she gets his thing, and then Sonya can now shoot lasers, but in a different way.
Sonya is able to kill Kano and then acquires her dragon mark so that she can unlock her own arcana.
Liu Kang vs. Cabal.
There's a really cool fight scene with Liu Kang versus Cabal.
Post-apocalyptic Deadpool gets eaten by a CGI fire dragon.
Liu bicycle kicks Cabal into a pit of oil.
And Liu Kang also does a fatality with Cabal where he summons the fire dragon.
It's too bad that he got burned to a crisp a second time, but that was awesome.
It ends with Liu Kang doing his fatality where he transforms into a giant dragon and eats him, except in this movie, he doesn't transform into a dragon, he makes a giant fire dragon which eats him. Which I guess is alright. I guess you don't want your hero, like, eating another human.
The way that Liu Kang took him out was really awesome. Like knocking him into the oil and then making the dragon. But instead of turning into a dragon, like in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, oh god, I almost threw up just saying it. Or in a game where he just randomly turns into a dragon and eats somebody, then turns back into a dude like nothing happened. Not my favorite Liu Kang move. He makes a dragon out of fire and just, it's, oh man, what a crappy way to go.
Which apparently there was a little Easter egg where he said, Toasty, but they cut it. Probably will work that into a future film. Details coming soon.
But Cabal was really great before that. I enjoyed his screen time.
And then he unleashes a dragon made out of fire and finishes Cabal off with a fatality for Kung Lao.
And Liu Kang says fatality for Kung Lao, which doesn't make any sense because avenging Kung Lao would require the death of Shang Tsung. Post-apocalyptic Deadpool didn't really do anything to Kung Lao, or I think even share a scene with him.
Some of the one-liners in the film are really cringy. I thought the fatality line in particular was pretty awful. The flawless victory wasn't as bad, but it was pretty bad.
Cole vs. Melina.
Cole is fighting Melina, which is a cool fight.
Cole has been fighting Melina this entire time.
Cole is not doing great against Melina.
But Sonya shows up and kills Melina with a purple energy blast.
But then he cheats again because Sonya teleports in and...
But right before she could bite his face off, Sonya jumps in and saves his ass with her fancy new purple energy rings.
Zaps a hole in Melina because she has her arm lasers now.
Also, the purple laser guns, they were neat, even though they only got used like once, but whatever.
That's her arcana.
Sonya Blade gets purple power and finds her chi in record time to kill Lady with the Size.
Which is amazing that she learned and mastered her arcana so quickly, where everyone else was taking forever.
They were creative enough to come up with some really interesting sequences. Like I thought when Kano discovered his was particularly interesting. But then like Sonya just has hers like immediately when she gets it. Granted, the way she uses it is super awesome and gory as hell, but it just was very inconsistent.
Another dumb thing. Sonya gets her powers like immediately after getting her birthmark. No training, no battle, just bam. Arm ring lasers.
I do recall a couple of people being upset with Sonya's like ability to just magically get her arcana straight off the bat. But I feel like throughout the course of this movie, they have shown that Sonya is the only confident fighter, like the only person who has any form of self-confidence, and everyone else needs to find it.
So much inconsistencies. And, in a movie about a video game, about the absorption of our entire universe and a torment only 15 people on Earth even know about.
The biggest case, I think, of Cole Young feeling shoehorned into this movie is the end of the movie, where because they tie him to Scorpion's mythology so strongly, he's a direct descendant. I guess it kind of makes sense, or a bit more sense at least, when Scorpion randomly shows up at the end of the movie to get his revenge on Bi-Han. Excuse me, I'm no longer Bi-Han, I'm Sub-Zero.
We get a moment straight out of Halloween when Sub-Zero pulls a Michael Myers on Cole's family before tricking Cole into fighting him one-on-one.
Sub-Zero then appears but has abducted Cole's family, trying to goat him into a one-on-one fight, which works.
He teleports them to the MMA fighting arena where Sub-Zero has frozen his wife and daughter.
After a series of redemption battles with everyone taking on their respective archenemies that they just made, ending with Cole and Scorpion defeating Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero thinks that he has his fight in the bag when all of a sudden, Cole pulls out Hanzo's blade, and it starts glowing.
Yo! Hanzo returns!
Cole is again outclassed by Sub-Zero, and his abilities and his plot armor doesn't seem to be working against Sub-Zero's freezing abilities.
The final climactic fight of the movie is Scorpion, who comes in from hell and fights Sub-Zero.
I knew that this scene was in the movie because, like, I'd seen a clip of it somewhere, but I was genuinely expecting, like, Cole to transform or whatever. But this is really welcome.
Cole ends up trying to use a kunai on Sub-Zero and ends up cutting his hand.
So Sub-Zero is about to kill Cole with the blade of Hanzo.
Once Cole's blood hits the kunai, it releases Hanzo from the Netherrealm as the vengeful specter Scorpion.
But out of nowhere, Scorpion a harpoon, pan across, and we get the song. dun 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 dun.
The spear summons Scorpion from hell, and right before Sub-Zero could finish Cole off, he gets speared through the shoulder with a chain.
Awesome.
Scorpion yells, "Get over here!" in perfect English, but who cares? It was awesome. Scorpion vs. Sub-Zero.
I have risen from hell to kill you. That was badass.
Sub-Zero is amazing in this movie. This fight is just so good.
Scorpion pulls out a katana and Sub-Zero creates a sword out of ice, just like in the games.
And the final fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, of course, was freaking awesome.
The fight between Scorpion and Sub-Zero is awesome.
It was well choreographed and just really well done.
We get a side view shot of the two getting ready to fight. It all feels like a classic samurai showdown.
So when he shows up to get his revenge on Sub-Zero, it's so freaking awesome to see Scorpion and Sub-Zero's fight, and just it was so well handled that you kind of forgive the fact that this dude randomly is just down there like punching ice trying to free his family. Like, it just felt weird. Like, oh yeah, we gotta tie this idiot into the end somehow.
Speaking of Scorpion, the movie starts out following him, and apparently his bloodline, but we don't really see him until the last 10 minutes again, where he absolutely dominates and shows literally all of his specials.
It has a get over here, and this time he actually says get over here.
And the only other video game cameo reference Easter egg thing was the biggest plot hole in the entire film. How does a Japanese guy from the 1500s know how to say get over here in English, but not know any other English words at all?
It's just everything you would ever want is in this fight.
It just doesn't make any sense.
While Sub-Zero and Scorpion fight to the death, again, Cole's punching through the ice trying to get to his family.
Then Cole shows up and it becomes kind of a tag team against Sub-Zero.
He then recognizes Cole as his descendant.
Cole teams up with his ancestor against Bihan, and the two finally avenge their clan.
And then when this fight has like been like the best fight of the movie's been going on for a few minutes, suddenly it's no longer just Scorpion versus Sub-Zero in the grudge match. It's Scorpion and Cole Young versus Sub-Zero.
Hanzo helps to free Cole's family with his newfound Hellfire abilities.
One of the things that I really liked about this, and this movie does such a good job of constantly telling you that it is an introduction. This is not the be-all, end-all. Cole as a character never really grows.
Cole is busy just punching ice in the background, but Scorpion and Sub-Zero going back and forth, that was awesome.
He kind of sucks all the way through the movie, but he learns that, this is something he now has to take care of. He cannot escape this. He can't run away from this one thing or give up on this one thing.
And by the end of the fight, Sub-Zero's armor has been stripped down, and he looks a lot like another character which we would see in the future, Noob Saibot. So that may be where we hear Toasty in a sequel.
Again, it's cool. It's very well executed. The fight choreography is good. Like, it could have been a lot worse. It just feels out of place to me.
And then Hanzo shows up. So Cole's kind of shitty and Hanzo is apparently really good. And you have this visual on screen of what Cole needs to become, what Cole can become.
Scorpion helps him overpower Sub-Zero and free Cole's family before he does his immolation fatality on Sub-Zero with his Hellfire.
Anyway, it ends with Scorpion doing his fatality.
And we get Scorpion's epic fatality where he spits out fire like a dragon,
where he pulls off his hood and breathes fire,
burning Sub-Zero alive.
And just incinerates Sub-Zero.
Including pulling his face off to show a fire skull and breathing it right down Sub-Zero's face. Love it.
It's so good. I should also mention that Sub-Zero starts to lose his armor in this fight and becomes Noob Saibot, which was a neat touch.
I also appreciated that just because I watched Scorpion's Revenge, I didn't have to see the entire origin and redemption story throughout the movie, just cameos.
Scorpion thanks Cole. He tells him to take care of his bloodline before warping back to the Netherrealm.